All right, Empire Strikes Back. Again, like A New Hope, what can I really say about this one that hasn't been said? Besides it being one of the best Star Wars movies. Looking at it again, just rewatching Empire, it's so interesting watching this one because this is the only one that Irvin Kershner directed. Because George Lucas directed episodes 1 through 4, and then Irvin Kershner directed Empire, and then Richard Marquand directed Return of the Jedi, and then it was J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson directing episode 7, 9, and Rian Johnson directing 8. But usually, like, we have a director that, besides these two movies, there's usually a director, or 3, I guess, with Last Jedi, there's usually a director that directs more than one movie. So it's funny to see, with different directors in Star Wars, I like the aesthetic touches that they put with these movies. With George Lucas, you can tell it's George Lucas with all his movies that he directed. You can tell a Rian Johnson movie when you see it. You can tell a J.J. Abrams movie when you see it. But looking at Irvin Kershner's one, Empire, I'm genuinely surprised every time at how great of a directed movie this is. I genuinely love this one so much. Looking at it from a standpoint of, like, I grew up with it. I grew up with the first 6 movies. Looking at it that way, like, with trying to get that out of the picture, like, I still think it's a fantastically made movie. I just love the fact that this is a great second chapter. It's a great second chapter with a story arc for characters that you liked in the first one, but they really delve into more in this one. I like how Luke Skywalker was a happy-go-lucky kid in the first one. After he was whiny, he was happy-go-lucky, and he went and saved the day. And then in this one, he starts being like that, but then the movie gets pretty dark. And I like how dark the movie presents itself. I like that it is a second chapter where nobody dies, but, like, it's a movie that is about darkness, about Vader catching up to Luke and the dark secret that Vader had and Luke have in common. And I think that that's a really cool idea. Even if you watch the prequels, even if you knew the fact before that Darth Vader was Luke's father, it still is effective. And I like seeing this twist from different points of view. If you watch this in 1980 with no Star Wars prequels, with no, like, news about that Luke is Anakin's son, you look at it from a way where it still works even if you know the twist, because rewatching it, watching Luke realize that having this realization, I think, is a great twist, like, reveal for him to realize this. Like, I like how the audience, if you've seen the prequels, are in on it, but I like the fact that even if you know, the movie still works from that standpoint of Luke Skywalker learning that truth. Like, I think that's cool that they can have a twist that could be worked different ways. Because this was released first, of course, than the prequels. So it's funny to see that difference. And I really just like that a lot. I like the connections. And looking at Darth Vader in this movie, like in A New Hope, he was really just a mustache twirler. Like, he literally was there. All he did was say a couple lines and choke out a couple people, and that was it. And Tarkin was kind of the villain of A New Hope, more so than Vader. And in this one, Vader is the villain first and foremost. And I really like that. I like that Darth Vader is considered one of the big villains of the franchise, even though Palpatine is the villain of all 3 trilogies. But Vader in this movie is the villain front and center. Like, he does have the Emperor on the sidelines where he does have a chat with him, but it is about Darth Vader in this movie. And I think that's why people love this movie too, because, like I said, Darth Vader in A New Hope was kind of just there as a kind of foil villain. Like, he was there and that was it. But in this one, emotionally, it works very, very well between him and Luke, and just that buildup of them both telling each other that realization, I think, is great. And I think this is the best use of Vader, villainous Vader, besides, like, Rogue One, where, like, he slaughters down some rebels. Like, that, like, this one, as a whole, is the best way to have Vader as a villain in this movie. In Return of the Jedi, I love when he's redeemed, but I love in Empire how he could be a menacing villain, and, like, he seems unstoppable, and I really like what they did with him in this movie. Looking at Luke Skywalker, I like how he is a character that, like I said, he's in A New Hope, he saves the day. In this one, he realizes the fact that Vader is his father. But I like the fact that Luke goes out and immediately tries to fight Vader, while Yoda and Obi-Wan tell him, don't do that. That'll be he goes out and fights. He goes out to go and save his friends, but Yoda and Obi-Wan tell him, no, like, you can't have connections. Like, you can't go for that. And that's exactly what Anakin did, where Anakin went out and tried to save Padme, and then that cost him everything, because Palpatine, of course, was onto him and immediately tricked him in all that way. But I like how Luke in this movie just doesn't go... He doesn't do the thing that Yoda and Obi-Wan want. And I think it's so funny that in this movie in Empire, Luke doesn't do what Yoda and Obi-Wan want, but in The Last Jedi, he makes a quick decision that would have been something that I think Yoda and Obi-Wan would have wanted. So I think that that's really cool, seeing Luke Skywalker's arc throughout all these movies. That he jumps on something really quick, like he doesn't think logically about it, and I like that they continue that on in Last Jedi as well. But he denies, like, Yoda and Obi-Wan's, like, idea. Like, they tell him to don't go and get your friends. Like, you're going to, like, the truth's going to be revealed and you're going to be stuck. Like, they already knew what was going to happen, basically. And I just really like that. And I like Luke Skywalker in this movie. It's funny because in A New Hope, like, he destroys the Death Star, like, 1,000,000 chance. So he does that, and then in this movie, I think he thinks he's gonna succeed again. Like, he's gonna succeed in getting his friends back, because he did something like that in the first movie. So I like that, just that character arc. Like, I think that's really cool. It's weird because Han Solo and Leia are really great in this, but they don't. It's weird. They have, like, they're there in the movie, but they don't have an arc like Luke does. But the movie really is focused on Vader and Luke for really the whole movie. That's basically what the movie is about. Like, Luke is there to try to save his friends who become foils to the Empire. So they try to go and, like, Luke tries to go and save them, and then he realizes that he can't, and that he's failed, he's screwed up. So I just think that's really cool. So like I said, they don't have as much of an arc here, Leia and Han, but I still do enjoy them like I did in the last one. It reminds me so much of, like, Rise of Skywalker, where, like, Rey and Kylo Ren are the ones that are important, but Finn and Poe are just in the background, like, they're back there somewhere. This is written way better than that one is. But I really like that. I like the fact that how the movie looks. The movie is one of the most beautiful looking Star Wars movies. It's very simple looking, but it's very dark. This and The Last Jedi, in terms of, like, a second chapter, really do a great job of visually making an aesthetic where, like, you look at it like it's supposed to be a dark movie. It's supposed to end dark. And I like how they do that. And I think it's just really well done. The cinematography in this one is great. And you also get Boba Fett introduced, which is cool. Or introduced. Like, in the original trilogy, he's introduced. But Boba Fett's fun. He's really just a thing to sell toys, like Captain Phasma or Darth Maul. Like, he's just kind of there to sell toys. But he's got a cool-looking outfit. Like, it's funny to see how Boba Fett has changed over the years, because you get young Boba Fett in Attack of the Clones, and then after Return of the Jedi with The Mandalorian, you get way more Boba Fett stuff, which genuinely surprised me, and I think he's the most interesting in The Mandalorian by far. So that's awesome to see it in that. But yeah, you get introduced to Boba Fett as well. Get introduced to the Emperor, but briefly. And I watched the newest edition, or one of the newest editions that George Lucas did for Empire. I didn't watch the original version again. I've only seen the original version once or twice. Honestly, looking at the Emperor in the original version of Empire, I think is worse, like, to look at. Like, there are some effects in the original trilogy, like original editions, that are good, but then there are some effects that I think are really bad. Like that, I'm so thankful they replaced Ian McDiarmid in that hologram in this movie, as opposed to that one guy in the original cut of Empire where, like, he had, like, eyes like this, and he looked like a monkey. Like, it was so weird. Like, I didn't get... It was obviously a budget thing, probably, but it was, like, the makeup was so bad on that. And honestly, watching Return of the Jedi again, with Palpatine and his butt face, like, up here, like, it's weird. Revenge of the Sith, he looks way better in that. Not gonna lie. But yeah, you introduced the Emperor in this one as well. He's not referenced in A New Hope, but he's referenced in every other Star Wars thing besides that. But yeah, that's cool to see him in this. Of course, he's not that important until Return of the Jedi. Of course, he was important in the prequels, but he's in this original trilogy so far. He's not really the villain in this one. He's the big bad in Return of the Jedi, and Vader is on the sidelines again, like he was in A New Hope. So yeah, that, and there are moments that I love in this movie. I love the fact that, like I said, it goes dark. I like the whole confrontation between Luke and Vader. Of course, I love the "I'm your father" thing. That one's great. But my favorite scene by far, and people don't really reference this one as much, I love the scene where Luke is hanging on top of, like, that satellite, like on the bottom of Bespin, and he just, like, he says, Ben, like, because he thinks Obi-Wan will come and save him, or at least talk to him, and then nothing comes, and then he says, Leia, and then you see on the Falcon, Leia's just sitting there, like, in a trance, like, she can hear him, she knows he's there, and that was the implication that they're brother and sister. That was really, really fantastic, and it's just a chilling moment. I love that moment. It's one of my favorite moments in the whole franchise. But it's so awkward that, like, that happens in this movie, but then they make out at the beginning of the movie. Like, it's with these movies, like the original trilogy, they really didn't always have it planned out with those kind of things. So it's funny I said that. It's not really planned out in the original trilogy because people complain about the new one not being planned out, and it definitely wasn't, but it's funny to see that they do that in the original trilogy as well. I think that's hilarious. Honestly, the most consistent is the prequel trilogy because one person directed all three, so they knew the story going through it. Like, that's hilarious. But yeah, Empire, I think, is great. Like, it's so enjoyable. There's not much else I can say about it, really. Like, this is a short review because this one, really not much to say. Like, I enjoy it. I love it. It's one of the best, but really, what else can I say about it? Like A New Hope, it's been out for 40-some years, so that's it, pretty much, on Empire. So stay tuned for my Return of the Jedi review, and see you guys later.